The self-enrichment of Donald Trump's second term makes his first look like child's play by comparison, kids on the playground. But it's not without resistance. Trump is now being sued over that new service on Truth Social that charges up to, get this, $100,000 for early access to his posts that move markets. Intercept Media and the Freedom of the Press Foundation filed the lawsuit, calling the scheme, quote, extraordinary, corrupt, and unconstitutional. It comes just 2 days after Trump's media company boasted on an earnings call that at least 10 companies have signed up for the service. I want the list of them companies. How about y'all? Joining us now at the table, Ankush Khador. He is a former federal prosecutor and the author of the Open File newsletter.
Ankush, usually we're texting, in the newsroom, did you see the truth post by the president? Or somebody, even a friend or family member sends it to us. We're not usually watching every single moment. Explain how this advantages these companies and why Dan Scavino, Natalie Harp, and why the White House would be named in this lawsuit.
So, Trump's Truth Social feed provides a lot of market-moving information, naturally. Things that the president says can shift markets instantaneously, whether it has to do with the war and potentially the price of oil or a particular business. So the decision to give that information to people who are paying for it ahead of time means that they can trade ahead of other people and potentially lock in financial gains that will not be available to the people who aren't paying for that access, and actually will come at the expense, just to be clear, of the people who are not paying for that access, given the nature of how markets work, right? So the lawsuit names Trump not just in his personal capacity. We were just literally look at this a moment ago, but also some of his aides. I couldn't tell you what the exact strategy is concerning which defendants they decided to name. That's often something that the litigators think about very carefully. Sometimes it's just simply easier to depose someone if you've named them as a defendant. But the challenge to the challenge that the lawsuit is bringing is about whether this is unconstitutional or inappropriate favoritism. And, I think the arguments are good. They're necessarily novel because no president has attempted to do anything like this before. So we can't say it's a slam dunk or not. But I think they've done a good job with it.
Profit in such a clear way.
Yeah. And even 30 seconds, I think, is the kind of deal here. $100,000 for 30 seconds of a head start. That can be millions of dollars.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot of seconds.
Oh, yeah. Is it 30 seconds?
Really? I think it was 30 seconds.
That is a lot of latency, actually, in the market, right? And the closest analogy that I think about is when, high-frequency trading companies would pay for co-location services and things like that so that they could get access to feeds from stock exchanges before other traders do. And this was very controversial when it happened. It's now sort of become the norm, but it's the same idea. And the latency advantages in those markets, they were down to like microseconds. Some of these businesses are making money off of. So you're talking about like that much time, a lot of money can be made.
One other thing, and I'm looking at the lawsuit here, has Donald J. Trump in his official capacity as president of the United States, Natalie J. Harp, Dan Scavino, those are people who have access to Trump's Truth Social account, the keys to the kingdom, as it were. Trump has immunity from the Supreme Court for anything he does in his official capacity as president of the United States. So one, I'm curious what you think about them adding that there. But who doesn't have immunity at this point, Natalie Harp, Dan Scavino, and a host of other people who might get pulled into these kinds of things. When you think of how the aides are operating around Donald Trump, sometimes it feels like they're operating knowing that at the end of the day, they're going to get some kind of clemency, depending on where they're at. And I think it was in the regime change book that said that people joked that anyone that gets close to 250, feet of the White House is probably going to get some kind of nice little letter from pardon from the president.
Yes. So one quick distinction between criminal and civil immunity. The Trump immunity ruling was just about the president. The president already had, and other people in the government already have, civil immunity under earlier decisions, right? And we're talking about a civil case. But your point is exactly correct. A fact pattern like this could theoretically generate some forms of criminal liability down the line. I don't want to, jump too far ahead, but certainly this is something you would be interested in looking at. But for sure, I think it's been very clear, at least to me, seeing how this administration operates, that people are who are in close proximity to the president are assuming that they're going to get a pardon.